Lana was living the textbook suburban life. A husband, a 5-year-old, a home with throw pillows that matched the curtains, and a coffee machine fancy enough to intimidate guests. On paper, everything looked perfect, like one of those family photos people tape to their fridge to convince themselves they're winning at life. Her husband Brian was a solid guy, dependable, thoughtful. He worked hard, said, "Bless you," even when no one else did, and fixed leaky faucets without being asked. Back when they met, Lana had felt like she struck gold. They moved in together within a year, got married, had their son Max. For a while things really were good. They had routines, they had a budget, they had a shared calendar and 2 reusable grocery bags. Life was humming along in safe, cozy patterns. But then came the slow fade. Brian became predictable. He spent most of his time at work, or talking about work, or worrying about bills. His idea of fun was rearranging the garage or researching energy-efficient light bulbs. When Lana mentioned taking a weekend trip, he responded with a 5-minute lecture about unexpected expenses and interest rates. Meanwhile, Lana started to feel invisible, not sad exactly, just stuck, like she'd become the background music in someone else's life. And that's when Derek reappeared. Ah yes, Derek. High school boyfriend turned human temptation. She saw his name pop up on Facebook one night, and curiosity did what curiosity always does. He looked good, better than she remembered actually. Muscles, tattoos, that annoying confidence guys develop when they still think they're 25 but now know how to cook steak. She told herself she was just saying hi, just being friendly, just clicking on his profile 27 times a day to see what he was up to. No big deal. But then, plot twist, Derek had a kid, same age as Max, and just like that, Lana's brain lit up like a Christmas tree in a blackout. Playdates. That was the genius idea, harmless little get-togethers between 2 single-digit humans. Supervised, of course, by 2 very grown-up humans who used to make out behind the gym. She pitched it to Brian casually, like, "Hey, this old friend from high school has a son Max's age. Wouldn't it be nice if they played together?" Brian, ever the trusting optimist, thought it was sweet. He worried sometimes that Max didn't have enough friends, especially since they didn't have much family nearby. So this seemed like a perfect opportunity. Lana, meanwhile, was already mentally coordinating her Tuesday and Thursday outfits. Before long, her playdate days became the highlight of her week. She'd wake up early, do her hair, put on her nicest jeans, yes, those jeans, and spritz herself with the vanilla perfume that Brian always said gave him a headache. When Brian once asked, "Why are you getting dressed up to hang out with a couple of toddlers?" she snapped, "Because I'm still a person, Brian. Moms can look nice too." His confused face should have been a red flag. Instead, she took it as proof that he just didn't get her anymore. And Derek, he played right along, always finding little excuses to stand too close, touch her arm, show her something on his phone so their shoulders brushed. It was like Lana was starring in a low-budget soap opera, and she was loving every scene. The double life had begun. And no one, not Brian, not Max, not even Lana herself, had any idea how fast it would spiral. By month 2 of her not-so-innocent playdates, Lana had it down to an art form. Tuesdays and Thursdays were sacred, not for yoga, not for book club. For Derek, she even had a little system, clean outfit, hair curled just right, and the vanilla perfume that apparently only gave Brian headaches but made Derek act like he was in a cologne commercial. Brian, of course, remained blissfully unaware. He was too busy working overtime and talking about retirement planning like it was a party. Sometimes Lana felt bad, briefly, right before she remembered that he once got her a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. Romance, thy name was not Brian. At home, Lana started picking fights over absolutely nothing. Dishwasher loading techniques, how he cut Max's sandwiches, his obsession with documentaries about World War II. Any minor annoyance could now be twisted into a speech about how he never listens or takes her for granted. Classic misdirection. She could have taught a class on it. Meanwhile, Derek was living up to his reputation. Charming, reckless, and allergic to consequences. He'd show up, son in tow, flash a grin, and within minutes, the kids were planted in Max's room with snacks and a video game, while Lana and Derek supervised each other in the most inefficient way possible. Now, Derek wasn't exactly the picture of responsibility. He didn't believe in protection. Lana, who used to double-check expiration dates on milk, suddenly started throwing all sense out the window like she was starring in some midlife makeover montage. She told herself it was passion, connection, destiny, basically anything except what it actually was, a walking, talking bad idea in a backwards cap. And oh, the cover-up routines. She had a drawer full of Derek-only outfits. She washed them the second he left, kept a separate perfume bottle in the car, even created a fake group chat called Mom Squad to explain random texts that might pop up if Brian ever glanced at her phone. All of this was exhausting, but thrilling, like being in a secret club where the only membership requirement was a complete lack of common sense. But Lana wasn't just lying to Brian anymore. She was lying to herself. Every time Derek said things like, "We should be together for real," or "You deserve better," she believed him, despite the fact that Derek had the long-term planning skills of a dropped waffle. One day, after a particularly dramatic argument with Brian over cereal, yes, cereal, Lana sent Derek a text. "I should have never left you." He responded immediately, like a trained actor hitting his cue. "He doesn't deserve you. We were meant to be." And just like that, Lana was convinced this wasn't just an affair. This was a love story. Shakespearean, tragic, beautiful, except with fewer sonnets and more sneak-outs. By month 3, it was routine. She'd text him, "Come over, he's at work." That was their code. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and the occasional bonus weekend if Brian picked up extra shifts. Derek would show up like clockwork, smuggling his son in like it was a covert op. The kids would disappear into Max's room, and Lana and Derek would go reenact bad decisions across every questionable surface in the house. Sometimes Derek would leave just minutes before Brian pulled into the driveway. Lana lived for that adrenaline rush, like she was starring in some spy thriller, except instead of classified documents, she was hiding smudged mascara and guilt. But here's the kicker. While Lana was busy chasing excitement, Max was watching, listening. So was Derek's son. Kids aren't dumb. One day Max asked, "Why does Jaden's dad hug you so much?" Lana laughed it off, of course. Said something vague about being friendly. But in that moment, the tiny little crack in her carefully built double life started to spread. She didn't care. Not yet. Because in her head, she was building towards something bigger, something bolder, something better. And Derek? Oh, he had ideas too. Like Lana leaving Brian, taking half the house, getting child support, starting fresh, with him. Convenient, right? It was a Tuesday like any other. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and Lana was shaving her legs with the precision of a bomb technician. Derek was coming over. She spritzed on the special occasion perfume, light vanilla with a hint of poor judgment, and even put on the matching underwear set he liked, which was entirely unnecessary considering how fast it usually ended up on the floor. She texted him their usual code. "Come over, he's at work." Like a spy on a secret mission, except her mission involved a kitchen counter and some very questionable life choices. By 11 a.m., Derek was at the door with his son Jaden, grinning like he owned the place. Max and Jaden vanished into Max's room to bond over cartoons and juice boxes, while Lana and Derek headed to their version of adult bonding, speed-running their relationship without any actual conversation. But today Derek was weirdly chatty after. Lying in the bed Lana technically shared with her husband, Derek traced circles on her back and started talking about the future. "A bigger place," he said. "Separate rooms for the boys. No more sneaking around." Lana, queen of selective hearing, ignored the part where he kept mentioning what she'd get in a divorce. House, money, child support. Minor details, surely. They lost track of time, as usual, floating on the giddy fumes of their make-believe future. Max and Jaden were in the living room watching cartoons. Lana was still in bed, mascara smudged, hair a mess, heart racing from a fantasy she couldn't afford. Then it happened. The sound. The very real, very wrong, absolutely not scheduled sound of Brian's car pulling into the driveway. At 2 p.m., 4 hours early. Lana froze. "Why is he home?" she yelled, tossing Derek's clothes at him like they were on fire. "I got it," Derek said coolly, like this was a rom-com and not the beginning of a nuclear marital crisis. Brian's voice rang out from the front door. "Lana, I'm home early. Got hurt at work. They sent me home." Panic. Lana was in full tornado mode, trying to locate her pants, dignity, and last shred of plausible deniability. Meanwhile, Derek? Oh no. He decided to stroll out, yes, stroll, into the hallway like he was looking for snacks. Brian rounded the corner and stopped. His eyes darted from Derek to Lana, from her disheveled hair to Derek's smug expression. It didn't take Sherlock Holmes to connect the dots. You could practically see the betrayal hit him like a freight train. Then came the words. Not shouted, not screamed. Just 2 words, cold and calm. "What is this?" Time stood still. Lana opened her mouth, probably to lie, but the universe didn't give her the chance. Brian lunged. Derek grabbed his arms and shoved him back against the wall like he'd done this before. A photo frame of their family shattered on the ground. Symbolism? Oh yeah, very on the nose. "Do we have a problem?" Derek asked, cool as ever. Like this was just some awkward misunderstanding and not the finale of Lana's suburban soap opera. Brian, red-faced and humiliated, shouted for him to leave. Lana stood there half-dressed, useless, with her world collapsing faster than she could process it. And then, because the universe wasn't done being dramatic, there was Max, standing in the hallway. Little fists clenched, eyes wide, watching his dad get shoved against a wall by the man he'd been told was just a friend. Lana would remember that look on her son's face for the rest of her life. Derek finally backed off, grabbed his son, and left without so much as glancing at Lana. Just poof, exit stage left, no apology, no drama. Just a smirk and a slammed door. Brian turned to Lana. "How long?" he asked. She couldn't even answer. "It was just once," she lied, because lying had become her default setting. Brian didn't say another word. He just knelt down, hugged Max, and said, "Go pack your bag, buddy. We're staying at Grandma and Grandpa's for a while." And with that, the curtain dropped. Lana's double life wasn't a thrilling secret anymore. It was public wreckage. The days after the Great Playdate apocalypse were a blurry montage of silence, unread texts, and Lana furiously typing "I'm sorry" like it was going to erase everything. Spoiler alert, it did not. Brian didn't yell, he didn't rant, he just vanished. Took Max, moved in with his parents, and went full ghost mode. Lana alternated between desperate apologies and the classic "you're overreacting" defense, which, by the way, never works on a man who just caught you mid-scandal in his own house. And then, like the cherry on top of a guilt-flavored sundae, came the divorce papers. Hand-delivered, clean, professional, emotionless, with a side of soul-crushing legal terms like adultery and unsafe environment. Lana read it 3 times, hoping it would magically change. Nope. Still said she was the bad guy. Still said Brian would get primary custody of Max. Still left her with nothing but a hollow house full of memories and throw pillows that now looked way too cheerful. So what does one do when their marriage collapses and their reputation is currently circling the drain? Naturally, Lana called Derek. Because surely he would step up now, right? After all, he said he wanted a future. He said they were meant to be. Surely this was the moment where he'd rush in, declare his undying love, and carry her off into the slightly dysfunctional sunset. Yeah. No. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. And again. Days later, he finally answered. And his voice? About as warm as a tax audit. "Look, Lana, what we had was fun, but I've got my own situation to deal with." Translation: "Surprise! I'm still with my girlfriend. The one I told you I dumped months ago. Oops. Suddenly, the big romantic future Lana had imagined turned out to be a group project she was working on solo, while Derek was off starting another one with someone younger, less complicated, and probably not mid-divorce. And just when she thought her dignity couldn't sink any lower, enter her family. Her mom drove up with a face that said, "I told you so," before she even stepped out of the car. One look at Lana, and she hit her with, "What were you thinking? That man gave you everything. You threw it away for a recycled boyfriend who cheated on you in high school." Ouch. Her sister, even worse. "You're the dumbest smart person I know." Double ouch. But also, kind of fair. But the real punch to the gut came from Max. On his first weekend back with Lana, he was quiet, clingy, backpack packed like he expected to be sent away again. And then came the questions, tiny, innocent, devastating questions. Why did you and Daddy fight? Why was that man being mean to Daddy? Are you and that guy getting married now? Lana fumbled through vague answers about grown-up problems and mistakes, but Max's eyes weren't buying it. When he hugged her goodbye that Sunday, it wasn't the happy kid hug. It was the please don't disappear again kind. The kind that breaks your heart and leaves you wondering how the heck you ended up here. "When are we going home, Mommy?" he asked. And she had no answer, because home, the real one, was gone. Torn apart by one too many bad choices wrapped in good intentions and vanilla perfume. 6 months after the now legendary hallway showdown, Lana wasn't living her best life. She was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with terrible lighting, a noisy upstairs neighbor, and a regret collection bigger than her DVD box set of Friends. Except now, she didn't have any. Not even the fake ones. Most of her old friend group had picked a side in the divorce. And spoiler, it wasn't hers. Apparently, destroyed her marriage via toddler playdate loophole doesn't earn you a ton of sympathy. Even the friendly neighbor who used to chat by the mailbox suddenly had places to be whenever Lana walked outside. At first, she thought it would pass, that people would get bored, or maybe realize she was the real victim in all this. She wasn't, but self-pity is very persuasive when paired with loneliness and microwave dinners. But no, Lana had officially been cast as the villain in the neighborhood soap opera, and the role stuck. Meanwhile, Brian, thriving. The man had shed emotional baggage and 15 pounds. He looked annoyingly healthy, centered, calm, as if the worst thing that ever happened to him turned out to be the best thing for him. He even answered one of her texts once, after she poured her soul into a paragraph about missing their family. His reply, "Let's keep communication about Max through the co-parenting app. Thanks." Translation, "I've emotionally relocated to a place where your drama cannot reach me. Please submit further requests through the appropriate channels." And Max? Well, Max had started therapy. Yeah, actual therapy. Because of her. Apparently, the friendly wrestling sessions between Lana and Derek didn't go unnoticed. Brian casually mentioned that Max had told his therapist, "Mommy and that guy were wrestling when they were supposed to be watching us." Wrestling. Lana wanted to disappear, or turn into a houseplant, anything that didn't require eye contact or responsibility. That shame? It was like carrying a wet blanket you couldn't take off. She couldn't even argue. There was no defending it. Not when the collateral damage had little feet and a lunchbox with dinosaurs on it. Financially, she was barely keeping her head above water. Between rent, car payments, and the child support she now paid Brian, she was basically working long hours just to stay broke with dignity. Oh, the irony. The very thing she used to complain about, Brian being gone all the time for work, was now her life. Only she didn't get thank you notes or forgiveness with it. There were moments she considered calling Derek again, just to talk. Maybe he'd changed. Maybe he regretted everything. Maybe, nope, blocked. She even drove past his apartment once, hoping to see him. Big mistake. There he was. With a new woman, younger, prettier. Definitely not living in a guilt-ridden spiral. Watching that scene unfold from her car felt like a bad rom-com where the main character doesn't get the guy, just the parking ticket. So what did Lana have left? A pair of lonely weekends with Max and a pile of unanswerable questions. And Max, still asking the hardest one of all. Mommy, are we ever going to be a family again? And every time he asked, Lana felt that hollow little ache in her chest. Because no matter how much she wished otherwise, the answer was still the same. No. Because once you burn down the house, no amount of "I'm sorry" can rebuild it overnight. Especially when the people inside were still carrying the smoke in their lungs. Month 7, Lana, ever the optimist, red denial expert, decided to try one last Hail Mary play. She invited Brian for coffee. The excuse? Max's upcoming birthday. The real agenda? Operation, what if we just magically go back to how things were before I nuked our lives? To her surprise, Brian agreed. Because of course he did. The man could still prioritize Max even if the sight of Lana probably made his stomach twist into origami. They met at a quiet cafe, neutral territory. Lana showed up looking polished, emotionally rehearsed, ready to casually mention counseling like it was a spontaneous idea and not a desperate script she'd practiced in the mirror. But when Brian walked in, something felt off. Not bad, just different, lighter. Like a guy who'd finally stopped carrying a backpack full of disappointment. He sat down, greeted her politely, and didn't even flinch when she launched into her speech. I've been thinking, maybe we could try counseling for Max's sake. Maybe there's still something worth saving. Brian stared at her for a moment. Not coldly, not angrily, just calmly. The kind of calm that says, I've already mourned this, and I'm not coming back. Lana, he said, I've forgiven you, not for you, for me, because holding on to the anger was hurting me more than it was helping. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean going backward. What we had? It's gone. I'm building something new now. I hope you can do the same. And just like that, it hit her. Brian had moved on, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, probably alphabetically too. And Lana? She was still stuck in the past, trying to fix a puzzle with pieces she'd already thrown out. Oh, but the universe wasn't quite done with her yet, because a week later she ran into Derek at the grocery store. He was pushing a cart with his very pregnant girlfriend. Yes, that girlfriend. The one he never actually broke up with. The one he probably left Lana's house to go meet for dinner. When he saw Lana, he gave her a quick nod. Not a wave. Not a smile. Just a half-second of recognition before steering his cart into the next aisle like she was expired milk. That one gesture hurt more than all his lies combined, because in that tiny moment she realized, to Derek, she was nothing. Just another bad decision in a long list of worse ones. And now? Now she sits alone in her apartment. No Derek, no Brian, no family dinners. Just a co-parenting app, reheated leftovers, and the echo of Max's question every time he visits. Mommy, will we ever be a family again? She wants to say yes, that she'll fix it, that some fairy godmother of redemption will come in and reset everything. But she can't lie to him anymore. She already did that enough. So instead she says, we're still a family, just different now. But even she doesn't believe it. Because the truth, the one she doesn't even like saying out loud, is this. She regrets what she did, but worse than the regret is knowing that, if given the chance to do it all over again, she might still make the same choice, believing somehow the outcome would be different, and that is the scariest part of all.